do people respect you? And are they willing to work with you? Like, those are key qualities that organizations are looking for in their leaders. So you can be competent, but if you don't have that respect from people, and if they don't get along with you, you will not have a chance to work within that organization. So that was something I came in guns blazing, man. Like, let me show you how to do it.
You had a passion.
I had a passion, and I was just stupid, I was stupid. Growing up was a great experience for me. I took so we grew up seeing my dad beat on my mom as a young child. So, of course, that was something that was always painful to see and experience. And here, they told me to lie down. They put a gun to my head. And I remember my mom the whole time, she would look at me and she was like, "Hey, so you have an exam tomorrow, right?"
That's courage. I don't know the number of men that would do that. It only takes an African mother.
You're so right. It's the strength of the African mother. They just have this extra energy. There was a house that had bullet holes all around it. There was a car that had blood all in it. And I guess the guy was just driving home, or whomever the individual was driving home and was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And of course, from what I heard from people around, the person didn't make it. But the mistake that I made was I put it in the chat rather than send him a direct message. Oh my God. But everybody on that month that started sending me messages at that point. I've been struggling for so long, and God just sent me to you. I sensed in my spirit that it was God that said I should email you. I'm still.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Is Possible with Dr. Sa. I'm so happy to have you here. I trust you're doing well and your day is going great. And I have a wonderful, amazing guest with me all the way in Canada. And he's going to be sharing his experience, his journey, how the process have been for him to this point, how he was able to get to this far in life. He's also going to be sharing, some tools that we can also leverage to enhance our life. Well, my guest today is Ayo Owodeni. And Ayo is based in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. I hope I said it right. And he is the city councillor. He's passionate about helping the immigrant population. His desire, his passion is to see the immigrant population soar. And I believe that is a great initiative. And, that's what actually why I have him here on the show, and I'm so excited to hear his side. Well, Ayo, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Sa, for having me. It's a great pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much for being here once again. Can you please tell us about yourself, who you are, where you grew up, where you come from, so we can get to really know you?
Thanks once again. So I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. That's where I had my childhood education. I actually went to my mother's school in Ojodu area in Lagos. From there, I went over to King's College. Eventually, I moved over to the United States. I did my university in New Jersey before moving back to Nigeria. And here I am in Canada. I've been in Canada for 6 years here. I moved to Canada in 2016.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. We're going to get into how, you got the opportunity to travel abroad. I'm going to the U.S. and all of that. But let's talk a little bit about diving into, how life was for you as, growing up in Nigeria. What was the experience like for you?
Growing up was a great experience for me. I took a course several years ago, and I think it's good that all listeners know this. And one of the most profound things that I heard from the course is use your stories to empower you, not to hold you back. So I always say for me, growing up was everything I needed to learn to be in the place that I am now, to do what I'm doing. I learned when I was a child. My grandmother was more of a community elder in our town, Ibadan. So
Wow.
growing up, I had a chance to live with. She had a chance to live with us in Lagos, but then summertime I would go over to her place, and it was always great to be able to see how she was such a critical part of the community, a community builder, bringing people together within the community. My mother was the same way. She owned her own school, so you had hundreds of students that would come to that school and through that school before they went to their different areas and places for their higher education. So it was always great to see how she was able to also impact lives through the power of education. There were many times where students couldn't pay their school fees, and somehow, some way, my mom would
Mm.
help support them through that process. And her nickname was Mother Teresa growing up. But here we are 20, 30 years later, and she's been able to
Mm.
impact and add value to so many people's lives. So having those
Wow.
two individuals be part of my life story has been so helpful because it has really planted that value of community service, building community, impacting lives, and doing what you can to serve those around you with the resources that you have. So for me, childhood
Wow.
was a beautiful experience. Growing up with my brother and my sisters, and yeah, I wouldn't have asked for anything better.
How many siblings do you have?
I have four sisters and I have one brother.
Wow. Wow. So that's the six of you.
Hmm.
Amazing. Amazing. What were some of the challenges you face living in Nigeria or growing, up back home? And again, this is not to, highlight the situation back home. No, that's not what this show is about. But again, because of where we're going with our conversation, I always like to, set the background, set the tone for the audience to understand that look, this person you see today,
Mm.
they had a beginning, and this was how they began, and this is where they are today. So there's definitely, whatever that you may be going through today, this is definitely a story that you're going to tell one day. So tell us, what were some of the challenges? What were some of the struggles you had back home?
Well, growing up, I know my mom and my dad, they're separated now. So we grew up seeing my dad beat on my mom as a young child. So, of course, that was something that was always painful to see and experience as a young child.
Mm.
I didn't know we were struggling in any way whatsoever. When you're going through that time period, you were just a happy child, just enjoying your life, and you had friends, you had family, you had cousins. So I wasn't really privy to some of the issues. I do know that there were times when my mom would put the light bill in her Bible because she wants God to see it. You know that
Wow.
God, I hope you're seeing what this is type thing. But
Mm.
I
Mm.
honestly, I want to just give great kudos to my mother because she did such an amazing job of ensuring that everybody was comfortable, that you
Mm.
didn't realize whatever it was that she was going through and whatever extra hustling that she needed to do to make ends meet. We didn't feel it. We didn't notice it. There was always food. There was always, we were always comfortable as kids. I think it's much later growing up and looking back, then you start comparing, that you realize that, okay, well, she might have been going through some challenges. It's just,
Mm.
in fact, I
Mm.
remember once we were robbed as kids, and the robbers came in.
Wow.
I was in the room, and my mom came into the room with like three, four robbers with their guns. As a child, you didn't know. I was trying
Wow.
to process what was going on, but here, they told me to lie down. They put a gun to my head, and I remember my
Mm.
mom. My mom, the whole time, she would look at me and she was like, "Hey, so you have an exam tomorrow, right?" And I don't know what is wrong with this woman. Or she would start cracking jokes and start laughing with a gun to
Man.
her head. And that is the power of,
Your mom must be, man. She was able to distract you
she was
from what was
distracting.
going
What
on
was going on?
around.
She was distracting. She was smiling. She was cracking jokes. She was calling me by my nickname. And for some weird reason,
Mm.
in the midst of that traumatic situation, I was fine because there was something in the mind going, if this woman is laughing the way she's laughing and talking about exam tomorrow, then I must be making it to the exam tomorrow and all is well. So I think it's just the strength of the African woman being able to
Yes.
ensure that their children are taken care of regardless of what was happening. So I want to make sure I always give kudos
Yes.
to the African mothers for
Mm,
their things that they went through that we don't see or notice. And it's
right.
years later that we look back sometimes that we realize that wow, she went through a lot just to make sure that we were all okay.
My goodness, really, what a courageous woman. I mean, situation like that, yes, the survival instinct immediately is just to, panic, freak out, hide. You can't even say anything. I mean, just the fear alone, but the fact that she was able to, suppress her own emotions with what she was going through and feeling,
Mhm.
and still able to connect to you through means of distracting you throughout that whole experience. It's amazing. That's really, some serious courage. I don't know the number of men that would do that. It only takes an African mother.
You're so right. It's the strength of the African mother. They just have this extra energy that is inside of them to make sure they're okay, their children are okay,
Yeah.
and once their children are okay, for them all is well.
Mm, mm, mm. How was it like, with you seeing your dad, beat on your mom as a child? Of course, there's going to be some, stress, and there's going to be some emotions to it that as a child, regardless of how naive you are,
Hmm.
that it may impact you in some way, though you may not be able to fathom or be able to make any significant meaning of it, but it may have impacted you. How did that affect you, really?
Well, it was a terrible situation for anyone to be able to see and
Yeah,
experience. Um,
absolutely.
you know, so I mean, just watching it as a child, there's nothing you can do. You feel helpless, um, and yeah, it's just usually a tough thing to see growing up. I mean, once again, the strength of the woman. I don't think I ever saw my mother in a corner crying or anything like that. The situation is over. That woman is walking up to you and talking to you, and it just there was just a switch on and off that she had. Now, does that mean when the door was closed, she wasn't in tears or afraid of her
Mm,
life or anything
mm,
like that? That I don't know, but I'm
powerful.
sure those things were probably happening. But I had my family around, and I had my sisters, and I had my brother. So they had a way of just pushing through. And I was the last born, by the way. So I think a lot of them, many of them, till today, there are times I don't even know some things that are going on, and I have to fight to get the information from them. They've always had that mindset of protecting the last
Right,
child, the last born
right.
type thing. So, as a young child, you saw what was happening, but I didn't see the before. I didn't see the after. I only saw that situation, if you know what I mean.
Did that affect your relationship with your father in any way? Did that influence it?
Well, I mean, growing up, my dad, and I were very close. I looked just like him.
As a last born.
Yeah, as a last born,
Yeah, as a last born.
I look just
Daddy's
like him.
boy,
I
I
sound
bet.
just like him. So I really, it's a very interesting question. I don't think it affected it in any way. There is
Okay.
good in bad people. There is bad in good people, and I think
You're
growing
right.
up, looking and reflecting back on some of those things, I don't know what was going on in their relationship behind the scenes. I don't know what triggered a
Right.
lot of those things. I don't know his background and his childhood as well. I remember when I reconnected with him in 2009, one of the first things I wanted to know was why, what was going on. I just wanted to have a conversation. I felt we had a good conversation, and for me, I just had to move beyond it. Can't hold something against someone for too long. I
Right.
don't like to carry extra burden and extra weight. There is too much ahead
Right.
to be worried about those types of things. And
Right.
there were mistakes that were made, and it's up to them to sort themselves out. But between me and him, we're fine.
Right.
You know.
Nice. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Let's move to your work, what you're doing now, and also even how you got the opportunity to travel abroad. How did that come about?
Well, I was leading my church choir. Well, not the church choir, the youth choir. Maybe that would be a better way to put it. I was asked to put together a youth choir back in Nigeria, and the youth choir involved a very amazing soprano singer who ended up becoming my wife. And we dated
Wow.
for some time, and we got married. After we were married for some time,
Mm,
she we both felt our careers were growing. I owned my own consulting firm. At that point, I had several clients that I was consultant for, and my wife was working for PwC, PricewaterhouseCooper, and she was moving
right.
up the ranks as well. So both of us were in
Hmm.
good careers. There was nothing sending us or chasing us out of Nigeria. At that point, we were
Mm,
fine. Things were okay. But we were leaving the house 5:30 in the morning. We were getting back home 10:30, 11 at night, especially when there's I don't know if you have this in Ghana, fuel scarcity, where you have to queue for fuel for a while. You buy black market fuel, it could spoil your engine, so you got to queue for a while. So all of that was it was an exhausting period for us. And I remember
yeah,
she was just
yeah.
like, "Do you want to raise children in this? Like, this is chaos." And we
Mm,
just felt, no, this is not for us. Nigeria was a beautiful, wonderful place, and we felt that we could grow our careers there, and we had great opportunities.
right.
But we just felt this was not for us. But luckily for her, and I guess for me at that point, she already had a permanent residency, which would be equivalent of your green card in the U.S. She already
Mm,
had that through her parents, who had applied for her and her siblings. So she mentioned, "Hey, there's this country
nice.
called Canada. Would you be interested in moving to?" I had never heard of Canada at that point. So I was, oh,
Mm,
okay, interesting. Well, let's learn more about it. And that's when our process began. So for us, it was, we were in traffic one day, and that traffic was brutal. And that was the catalyst or the
the
straw that
turning
broke
point.
the camel's back.
Talk to us about your passion. Why you could be doing anything else. You could be doing something else. You're a consultant. You could be consulting for companies with your time. Why did you decide to provide tools and resources to help the immigrants?
Well, that's a really good question. I came across a book a few years ago called The Jewish Phenomenon, a really powerful book that just talks about. It was a study done by a professor that talked about that did just a study on the community, the Jewish community, and
Mm,
why they're usually
mm,
successful everywhere they go. And it was a lengthy study. I believe it came down to several key factors. I don't remember all of them, but number one was just the
right.
power of community, having a sense of coming together, having the people stay together, be together. And there were other factors that came in there as well. But once I read it, there was something inside of me that was just switched on. That sense of I am going to be a community builder. So for me, that book was the catalyst that led me to start thinking in that direction of becoming more of a community builder. And I started getting involved with the African associations. I started getting involved with the Nigerian Association here in Kitchener, and in other ways that I could use my skills to be able to serve. And one thing that I've come to learn is serving is powerful. It helps you to expand your network. It helps with a sense of
True.
fulfillment. You're empowering people. You're adding value to people's lives. And it also pushes you through the tough times as well. When you're going through a tough time, focus your energy in serving. So you don't have time to sit and be down, depressed, and moping around. You have a way to channel your
Mm,
energy, but you're also adding
mm,
value to people's lives. And for me, that was
mm,
when it just
mm,
started. Reading that book, saying to myself, I want to be a community builder, thinking, well, what does that really mean and what does it take? And then all just starting down that path. And yeah, that's
right.
something that I've done ever since for the past 4 to 5 years. And I've always loved it. Yes, does it bring in the money and those types of things and accolades? No, it does not. But at the end of the day, when I can hear from someone that you added value to my life, or someone saying that you touched my life, or you spoke at this event and it did something for me, or that plan and that program that you put together really, really helped me out.
Mm.
Interestingly, today, before I jumped on this call, I had a meeting with two African Association presidents. There are leading associations in the
Wow.
region, and I was sharing the importance of them coming together, working together.
Mm.
I shared some of the gaps that I'm noticing in the community and how, as leaders, they can work together to be able to bridge those gaps and help those that are coming in. Why wait for government to
Wow.
solve problems that you can solve yourself? What all you have to do is come together and actually work together and strategize and plan together.
True.
And
True.
there was one point where I smiled and I said, "You just so you know, I get nothing out of this, just fulfillment.
Hmm.
For me, this is
Mm.
fulfillment. That's what it is." And I hope you see that. And so, yeah, it's just something that has been in my blood, and I love doing it, and it adds great value, and it serves me, and that also helps to meet the needs of the community. So I think it's a win-win for everyone around.
Absolutely. One beautiful thing about what you're doing is with each of your posts, the smile that you have. And that, I mean, it's only you have, it shows how excited, that you truly serve, and you truly want to give back. You truly want to also be able to help others. And that's one beautiful thing that I see with, most of your posts on LinkedIn. That's why when you said, I hope you see that, I said, yeah, because yes, I see that. I see it on LinkedIn because, I mean, man, you are always excited. I mean, meeting people, helping you, excited to share the news. And that's how it goes. And even without any financial, rewards at the moment, who knows, maybe later on the doors that this can open. Talk, what are the kind of services, or let me say help or tools that you provide to help immigrants?
So I've just recently created a page on my website, ioo.com, where I provide, if you're looking to move to Canada, here are some resources that you can look into. I get several messages on a daily basis saying, I want to move to Canada. I'm not an immigration consultant, so I cannot help
Disclosure.
people. Yeah, that's a disclosure that I need to provide for people.
Right.
However, there are people in that space. That is what they do for a living. You can go have a conversation with them, and then they can help you and provide thoughts and ideas on what you can do. I don't collect any commission. I don't collect anything from anyone. That is what they do. So we're providing that resource for people on my website because the number of messages that are coming in is a lot. I remember in
Wow.
2012 once I was, at home, and we could hear serious gunshots outside. And it went on for over an hour and a half. This was like 1 a.m. or so. Police did not come or show up. Well, let me take that back. Police came, left, and the robbers came back and continued their shooting. And it was a very scary moment. The next morning, when we went out to investigate, there was a house that had bullet holes all around it. There was a car that had
Wow.
blood all in it. And I guess the guy
Jesus.
was just driving home, or whomever the individual was driving home and was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Sad.
And of course, from what I heard from people around, the person didn't make it. But it just showed, as beautiful as Nigeria is, there's also the chaos that takes place there. So I am not an individual that does not know how bad things can be. Inflation is at an all-time high right now as well. The election is right around the corner. I don't know when this will air. It should be in around February in Nigeria. I don't remember the
Right.
exact dates it's taking place. So I understand and I empathize with people who want to leave because of the current economic crisis, or they don't. For them, they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to ensure that I try to help and support, but then also, if 100 people send me a message, I'm just not at the capacity to be able to respond to every single person. Uh, so we try to just want to see what can we do to support, and that's why we're providing that resource for individuals. The podcast as well is a great opportunity for people to learn from people that are already here, who have gone through a lot of mistakes. You don't have to make the mistakes that we have made. So that's why the podcast is
Right.
there. What can we do to, through our messaging, our thoughts, and things that we've been through, uh, provide a playbook that people can use to be able to help their process be less stressful, easier, and they can go through that integration process a bit quicker and more efficient through that process as well. So that's something that we're trying to provide for people also. But yet again, this is not my line of work. I'm a city councillor. I do city work. I represent the people of Ward 5 in Kitchener. That is my job. That's what I get paid to do. So this is more my way of just serving people from back home who want to know more about Kitchener, know more about Canada. There's a resource. There are people you can go talk to who can look at your resumes, look at your CVs, and based on what they see, can provide best advice on what you can do and should and possibly could do at that point in time.
I see. Are you running this as a nonprofit?
I'm not running as anything. I don't even want to. I don't want
I got
to.
you. To get
No,
in
I don't
the
want to get into legalities
or
of anything at all. For me, it's just, hey,
got
here's a
you.
podcast. In fact,
Pure,
I
right.
partner with an organization called immigrantnetworks.com. It is run by an individual called Nick Noorani. Nick is a great friend and he's a brother. And for me, if someone else is already building something in this area, why compete? Like, why chase after something where something is already there? So, Immigrant Networks is a
Mm,
sponsor of my podcast, and Immigrant Networks provides a lot of resources for immigrants that are already in Canada. And I always just send people to Immigrant Networks. So if you go to the resource page on my website, that's the same thing that I do. I refer you to Immigrant Networks, which has a lot more resources. There's no point in trying to do that when there's an organization that already does an amazing job, and then they have the
true.
time to spend. So sometimes I realize there will be 5 organizations or 5 non-for-profits with 5 directors, and they're all doing things that are very similar. And they're
The
all
same
doing, yeah,
thing.
exactly the same thing, because it's my passion, it's your vision, it's your mission. Well, I don't believe in those types of things, because then we're stunting our own growth, and we're all competing for the same grants from the government. So I prefer to just refer people to that side, to Immigrant
Makes
Networks.
sense.
So please visit immigrantnetworks.com. They have a lot of amazing resources on their website.
Nice. Thank you for providing that resource. With what you do, in terms of the calls and the intakes that you get, are they all from Nigeria or they are from other countries?
Well, I've had people just reach out and intake is more. I want to make sure people are aware. I don't collect any money or anything like that from anyone. So if messages come in, I just refer them to Immigrant Networks most of the time, or say, hey, go to our CIC
Nice.
website. We are the there's a website that has all the registered immigration consultants in Canada, I believe, and we send people to that platform. So that way they have the list of registered consultants that they can ask questions, and possibly, if they're interested, can take on their case. One thing that I've seen, and one thing that I've seen that I believe that all immigrants should be mindful of, please don't just walk up to any random person that claims they're an immigration consultant, or walk into a place in Ghana or Nigeria that says, we will help you move to Canada.
There've been
There
a
are a
lot
lot
of
of scams
scams.
that take place. I've had many people reach out sharing that a lot of
Mm.
their money has been
Say it
taken,
again.
or
Mm.
people have scammed
Yeah.
them. What is really beautiful about registered immigration consultants is they're licensed in this field. and there is a sense of accountability in their field as well. So if there is any
Right.
foul doing or
Right.
foul play, excuse me, you can always reach out to the regulatory body who can apprehend, who can warn, who can challenge, who can investigate, those registered consultants. And it's easier to go through that platform. But for some weird reason, our people, as we like to say, would want a cheaper route, will want a quick route, or
Right.
that person that is down the street, and they end up getting burned several times. And then they reach out to me. First of all, I'm not an immigration consultant, but uh, I, there's
There's
no
no
quick
quick
fix.
fix.
You're going to have to reach out to RCIC, and if they're not registered, I really don't know how to help you, unfortunately.
I see.
Yes.
RCIC. I see. So you are the pipeline to that organization, the RCIC. So do they the services that it provide, is it pro bono or it comes with a
Well,
fee?
RCIC is more like the college that trains it's the College of Immigration and Citizen Consultants. Uh, so RCIC means
The governing body.
yes, I believe so. It's a regulated Canadian immigration consultants. So that's what RCIC means.
I
So
see.
it's just a group of
Okay.
it's more a regulatory body helping with this area.
I
And
see.
I'm not. I think that's why I wanted to start the interview with the disclaimer that I'm not an immigration consultant, so I don't know much about the
Yep.
space per se. So I
Hmm.
literally just say, hey, I don't know anything. Connect with these people. They have a list of people that have passed their course, that are registered, and that they hold accountable. And it's easier for you to be able to link and connect with those individuals. Yeah.
Well, whilst you've been doing this, what are these? Have you had any opportunity or any return? Of course, you're not getting, pay to do this, but what are some of the gains you have actualized since you started 4 years ago?
Well, seeing the community grow, there is a large community of Nigerians in Kitchener, which is beautiful to say. I'm not saying I'm directly or indirectly responsible for that, but it's good to be able to see that.
Mm,
It's good to receive messages from people that are able to get good job opportunities because they listen to a podcast or
mm,
two, or they connected with a guest from the podcast, and they're able to learn from them. Or there's been opportunities where someone reaches out and I connect them with a guest on the podcast and they're able to start some sort of mentoring relationship and you hear something great about it from that end as well. So
nice,
for me, that's just the
nice.
beauty, being able to hear uh, and see some of those good stories come out at the end of the day. Just gives you an opportunity to see the work that is being done, and yeah, it's a
Mm,
really good feeling at the end of the day.
absolutely. And some of the services in terms of the needs that come in, what is it related to? Is it job related, housing, shelter? What do you see the trend in terms of the
Well,
demands?
most of the messages that come into me is people that are looking to move here. That's number one. Others are people that have been here are looking for a job opportunity, and those are the ones that I
Okay,
refer to immigrant networks because that's what they do
I see.
on a day to
Right,
day. I don't get much more than that. Those are like the top two that
right.
usually come in, but we don't track it. My team just forwards it and refers people to either the link to on the site or to immigrant
Mm.
networks as well.
How many people you
It's
have on
just
your
Bisola
team?
and I. So Bisola is my
Wow,
she's
beautiful.
the one that organizes everything and takes care of everything. So she's the big shout out to Bisola. Thank you for the great work.
She does a good
Yeah,
job
for
with
the great
that.
work that she does. But when I think of team members, I look at people that are members of immigrant networks like Nick Nurani and his team. He has a larger team. He has a group of ambassadors that he works with as well. So for me, we just plug into that. There's no point just starting something new. We
Right.
just plug into that network and resource.
When it's an
Yeah. So
existing.
when I use Team, most of the
Yeah.
time it's immigrant networks that I'm talking about.
It makes sense. There already is it's an already existing ecosystem. So, you just plugged
Yeah.
into it. So instead of reinventing
Hmm.
the wheel, you just say, this is the channel.
Hmm.
Amazing. Amazing. Can you tell how many people you think you've been able to refer
Oh, I don't
or
know.
help?
I have no idea. In fact, I have stopped. Well,
Thousands?
I can't even say, but now
Wow.
I just have Bisola handles the responses and the forwarding and the references. I don't touch it anymore. I am fully hands off at this point, and I've passed it on. I don't touch it anymore.
Wow. Let me ask this funny question. What has been the most ridiculous, or I'm trying to look for the word, the craziest or the funniest, request or intake you've ever received that you read and you were cracking up?
Well, so a few months ago, there is an individual from South Africa who it was actually a very inspiring story where he couldn't find a job in South Africa, so he started his own coffee business. So what he did was he bought those, I don't know what they're called,
Mm.
but it's like you put it on, and basically he started to sell coffee in traffic to people in South Africa. So when I saw the video, someone
Wow.
driving by had shot a video of it, bought coffee from him, and they've added him on LinkedIn. So I was quite inspired by it. So I sent him, I commented on the video, mistake number one, and I said, "Oh, this is awesome." So what I was thinking was, "Hey, how about this? Let's buy you another one of those so that you can get somebody else to start doing it, and they become an employee, or they give you a certain percentage, you know what I mean, of what they're making."
Right.
So I wrote that in the chat.
Right.
How much will it cost to buy another one so that I can put the money in? But the mistake that I made was I put it in the chat rather than send him a direct message.
In a
Oh
public.
my god! But everybody and their mother started sending me messages at that point. I've been
Yeah,
struggling for so long, and God just sent me to you. you know, I I sensed in my spirit that it was God that said I should email you. I'm so after
they're trying to use God to corner you.
so after 2 days, I was wondering why am I getting so many, requests all of a sudden. Then I remember, so I went back to the comment and I deleted it, but it was too late. So when I went back to delete it, I now saw all the wow, our counselor, we're so proud of you. This is amazing. God sent. This is what politicians should be doing. Yes, oh my God. So I deleted the comment
There's
and I sent him a private message, and we sorted. I was able to send money to South Africa to him, and hopefully he's been able to get that going.
wow.
But it was just funny the messages that came in. It started pouring
Right.
in. Someone sent me their school admission letter and said they needed money,
Yep, I have. I've gotten that.
and some like it's just one, and I just laughed like, wow, wow. I mean, on one end it shows the need that people have. On another end, it's just
True.
wow. Like, of course, I cannot respond to all the requests and the messages at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No way.
I'm never doing that again.
Well, it's I'm gonna say, guys, don't try this at home.
Exactly.
Or don't try this on LinkedIn.
Don't try it at
Unless
all. There are people that are waiting for your messages.
wow, that's amazing. Ayo, share with us. I'm going to ask you, and I probably have an idea what you're going to say. What makes you happy, or what does happiness mean to you?
Well, my wife makes me happy. She's walking by, so let me just drop that quick nugget.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So dinner can be sweeter tonight. Um, well, family, family makes me happy. Being around my children and hearing the noise around the house can be stressful, but it also puts joy in the heart
Mm,
because I do know that a time will come where they're going to move into their own homes. So for me, it's an opportunity
true.
to enjoy that. So that definitely makes me happy. I love listening to music. I am a music guy. My son is 7 years old. We love listening to music together. So that definitely makes me
Beautiful.
puts joy in my heart as well. And yeah, just spending time with family. I love spending time with with
Family.
my immediate family. It's just a joy to be around people.
Well, that's beautiful. How many kids?
I have two. I have a 7 year old. I have a 3 year old.
Wow. Wow. They keep you busy, huh?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Beautiful. Can you share with me share me one mistake you made abroad that if someone, the audience, someone listening, you can serve as an advice or listen to them.
Hmm. Um, it's a good one. So I didn't realize it was a mistake until I read a book. So I want to share the book and then share the mistake. There's a book by Matt Adolphe, Adophe, called Canadian Workplace Culture. Canadian Workplace Culture. Very powerful book,
Okay.
and I laughed through the whole book because every mistake or everything he said we should not do in that book as an immigrant, I did all of it. And I just laugh. Oh, that's why I was fired. Oh, that's why this happened. That's why that happened. But I do
Mm,
remember I got my first managerial position. I became a manager at in a bank, and I was to a few years ago, and I was to be leading a department through some projects and things that uh, embark on this project over there, and leading a team of a few people. It was just three individuals, but then taking the bank through some changes in that department. And I went in guns blazing like an average Nigerian man. You know, kick the door open. Let me show you how to do this. That type of thing. And they showed me
right.
Pepe, as we will say in Nigeria. They showed me Pepe. I think within 3 months, I was gone. I was let go.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I was let
That was
go of
short.
the
That's a short
organization.
stay.
That was a very short stay. And it wasn't because I wasn't competent. It wasn't about competency. That's when I learned many times, and this book really clearly stated it. Leading in Canada, I don't know about the United States, so you might want to speak more about the US side, but leading in Canada is not about how competent you are. Leading in Canada is, do people respect you? And are they willing to work with you? Like, those are key qualities that organizations are looking for in their leaders. So you can be competent, but if you don't have that respect from people and if they don't get along with you, you will not have a chance to work within that organization. So that was something I came in guns blazing, man. Like, let me show you how to do it.
You had a passion.
I had a passion and I was just stupid. I was stupid.
Mm.
Now, was there a hint of racism and all those types of things? I was the only second black manager in the organization. Did those things come into play? Perhaps. But like I
Mm.
said, I don't like to create stories that take power away from me. I like to create stories that empower me. So for me, I ignore all of those parts. In fact, I erased it from my memory and I focus more on
Mm.
what could I have done differently. And
Mm.
I should have gone in to learn. I should have gone in with humility. I should have gone in with that sense of bringing the team together and working with the team. Yes, I should have been able to ask the right questions to pull out the best in my people, help them feel comfortable, be able to work with them. Uh, those, even if I disagreed with them, be able to, yeah, share my thoughts and perspective, but have a way of working with the people and ensure that I
The
carry them
rapport.
along build that rapport with them. I didn't do a good job of those things. However, I am glad I went through that stupid mistake because it is helping
Mm.
me now in my role, in the new role that I'm in, because those lessons that I learned when I reflected, are things that I'm implementing today. And then also thanks to Matt Adolfi, big shout out to him. He's a good friend of mine now. Um, I recorded a podcast with him as well, and he talks through those mistakes. And you'll probably hear me laughing the whole time during the podcast because he was just rebuking me through the whole thing.
Wow. Wow. While I was on your podcast, how do we find your podcast?
So I have a website called theimmigrant.view.com. You can go on the website and you can see recordings. Or if you go to any of your favorite podcast platform, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, just type in The Immigrant View and I should come up. You will see a huge smiley face of me or me smiling. And just subscribe and download the latest episodes. We don't do a weekly podcast anymore because my schedule has gotten really, really crazy. So we're doing every other week. And there might be a likelihood where you might see some other people leading the podcast moving forward as well, just because we want to ensure that we continue the podcast. But as you probably know, this thing is bigger than me, the individual. There's a people to serve. So there's a likelihood you might hear some podcast that is not me. Don't be alarmed. We're still looking at the immigrant view, and we're still trying to ensure that we all learn from each other to add value to the immigrant community.
Absolutely. That's a legacy you're building because, the legacy is when it outlives the person. You don't have to be there in order for things to run. Even if you're not in the studio, behind the mic recording, the show is still going to continue because you have built that capable team that would be able to, deliver. So I'm happy to hear that. Really, it's been an amazing conversation with you. One of the, fun, amazing conversations I've had since I started, talking to the African diaspora. And I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for being open, sharing your experience, your journey with us, even, the vulnerable moment, for you in your early days as a child. Thank you so much, Ayo. If somebody, I think you shared your website, can you please repeat it again? If somebody wants to reach out to you, what will be the site?
So I am on LinkedIn. You can type in Ayo Owodunni, Owodunni. That's number one. I have a website called theimmigrantView.com, theimmigrantView.com, or my personal website, ayoowo.com, AYOOWO. If you go on ayoowo.com, it's more the political, my councillor role. So you'll probably see more things that are related to people of the city of Kitchener. But you can reach me through any of those platforms.
Awesome. Guys, I'm just saying, don't go in that platform, sending all kinds of, ridiculous requests.
We don't even answer anymore.
So, well, that's great to know that. Guys, I trust you have found value in our conversation today. If you haven't subscribed to be part of this community, you can hit the subscription button, like this video, share with someone so they'll be able to also know the amazing resources that my guests today have shared with us. You never know who you're going to be able to impact or make a difference. And sometimes it's not all about money. It's about the resources, the right connection, having access to the right information or the right person. Well, that is all I have for you today. And Ayo, thank you so much for being on the show again. And thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Nice. Well, guys, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye.